Welcome to the Common Sense Defense Podcast. Common Sense Defense Podcast is for the common everyday person to talk and discuss national security and defense issues and learn about national security and defense issues. My name is Ptolemy Prude. I'm the host of the Common Sense Defense Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the National Defense Strategy Fact Sheet and the impact the Navy's Battle Force Reduction Plan will have on preparedness and why it's absolutely imperative that we build our Navy. The British Admiral John Cunningham, he has this wonderful quote from back in the 40s during World War II. It says, it takes 3 years to build a ship, but 300 years to build a reputation. So we fight on. And I think that's where we are with our defenses. We are in the process of building our Navy, building our capabilities. And I want to kind of go through some of the facets of the National Defense Strategy that just came out in April. And I want to go kind of some of those points and the fact sheet that they have put together for us. The report is classified, and so I think those points are going to be coming out soon for civilian use. The department will develop, design, and manage our forces, linking our operational concepts and capabilities to achieve strategic objectives. This requires a joint force that is lethal, resilient, sensitive, survivable, agile, and responsive. That is the last line from the fact sheet. I love that. It kind of goes through the nuts and bolts of what's going to be really expected from each service. And I want to kind of look at a couple of the points, predominantly the part where it says resilient and sustainable and survivable. And the Navy is in the process of reducing or wants to reduce 24 Battle Force ships. And when you do that, as we discussed in our previous podcast, it puts us in a critical position in 2024, the fiscal year 2024, the fiscal year that is the one after this one, because we would have by that point, if we do what the Navy is asking, then we're going to be in a situation where we have less platforms to handle global problems and global situations. The Defense News has an article back in July 26th, and this is from Megan Eckstein, the reporter for Defense News, says, and the title goes, Navy moves to align its strategy with the national defense strategy priorities. And this quotes Admiral Gildy. It says he's eyeing he is eyeing a 2024 timeline to achieve his force design goals, though that could be accelerated if the Pentagon and Congress were to fund Navy priorities faster and help stabilize the defense industrial base. So the goal is for him, from what I'm understanding, is that he wants to use the money from the reduction of those platforms, which is basically, I think, from previous quotes, about $3.7 billion for replacing or for retiring the Ticonderoga class, so that he could update the Navy's battle force ships to more modern capabilities. The problem with that is you're looking at 10, 20, 20 some odd years before you get there. So as we are, and as stated in our last podcast, as we get to a point where we are reducing those platforms, what do we do in the interim? What are we doing in those middle years? So although our national defense strategy is talking about how we want to be resilient and sustainable and survivable, when you are, this is saying we're dealing with the antithesis of that. So being able to produce unmanned ships and unmanned submarines and different types of capabilities, hypersonics, those are all great, but they're not operative now. So we're looking at 4, 5, 6 years of developing those platforms. And so that in the interim, as I stated, that's going to be a hassle. That's going to be a problem. Let me read another quote from Admiral Gildy. He says, I'm being realistic. We don't have the capacity in the industrial base to pump out that number of ships in a short period of time, he said. It's going to take a couple of decades, really, to deliver. to mature the fleet in a manner where you get that composition that you're looking for over time. So it's stated right here. He stated this, and this was in July 26th, that that's going to be a hassle, that they're not going to be capable of being able to do that without having the money, without having the capacity. And so that's why we need to focus on building our Navy. That's why we need to focus on doing what we know we can do. Don't add in a bunch of new ships and other new capabilities. Yes, develop those, roll them out precipitously. But what you want to do is keep the ships you have, sustain the ships you have, put new systems on those ships. So here's an example. As I was stating in our last podcast, if you put a HIMARS launcher in the hangar deck of a Ticonderoga class cruiser, that is connected with the joint all-domain command and control infrastructure. The Navy has NIFCA, the Naval Integrated Fire and Control System, but there's also a smaller communications and capability that you can roll out just as easy, because we use it on the drone ships all the time. You put that capability with the HIMARS system. That system at that juncture will be able to get sensor data from 400, 500, 600, 1,000 miles away and be able to launch a missile without turning on the Ticonderoga systems. You can actually go dark and fire passively. And so I think when you take that one HIMARS, roll it out on the helicopter deck, lock it down, use that platform to fire 350 miles away. And as we deal with later increments of the precision strike missile, then you can fire farther down range. So it's that capability. You can keep, as long as you keep the ships, the Ticonderoga class, you can use amphibious ships, you can use auxiliary ships. You only need one platform and its ability to rearm, and all of a sudden you have a whole new capability. And that right now can be deployed. Right now, that capability is available. We test it all the time. And by 2023, 2024, you can have 25, 50 ships with that capability. Totally going dark if you need to. And everyone's wondering, oh, the Ticonderoga, the Aegis cruisers are old. They don't have the capability to be operating in modern domains. Well, just turn them off and just make the ships drive and put different platforms on them. So that's the type of thinking, outside the box thinking, that's going to be needed in the interim before we get the new systems online, before we get the new the new Flight 3 Arleigh Burke class, before we get the new Constellation frigates in, before we get the new hypersonic missiles coming in on the DDG 1000 destroyers coming out in 2025, 26. So before those capabilities are even available, and that's even on a small acute level, I mean, you're only looking at 4 or 5 ships before they even bring them on the submarines in 2028, I believe that is. So the point that I'm trying to share is that we have to carpe diem, with to seize the day. We have to maximize the systems we have in place. We have to make ships and build platforms that we've been doing for the last 5, 10, 15 years. Don't start anything new. Don't start anything different. Build our Navy now with what we have, with the capabilities we have. Excess money that we have, additional money that we have, put it in developing the infrastructure that can bring more ships online, that can do more of the management. And so just like the Navy SIOP plan, which deals with the infrastructure and developing the ships, put more money there. So I think where you're spending about $1 billion per annum there. So take that up to $1.5 billion, and get those capacities up earlier than 10 years and 15 years down the road. So these are the type of things that we need to do to build our Navy. And so, yes, I think it's great that the national defense strategy is such that it is. I think that's great. Then it's, how do you apply that to the Navy? Get the Navy relevant with new systems, new capabilities, but yet not lose your effectiveness by depleting your numbers. And so I want to end on this note, because I'm gonna try to always keep my my podcast in a 15-minute span here. But I really want to end on this point that this is a time right now that we need to talk to our congressional representatives and let them know we don't want to cut back the Navy. We don't want them to reduce the platforms, the Navy Battle Force platforms. So that's a common sense response to what's going on. We have to build our Navy. We have to take this opportunity right now, because once we disassemble and decommission these platforms, is that you're not going to have any more, and for over a decade. So we have to now, today, tell our congressmen and women that this is not a valid option, that we don't need to cancel our ships, that we don't need to reduce our battle force fleet. And so I appreciate you taking this time. I appreciate you listening in on this topic. And by all means, call me, reach out to me if with your thoughts. But this is a season. September is where we're going to have all this ramped up. Look for the latest information on our website, and more information coming from the Common Sense Defense podcast. I'm your host, Ptolemy Pruden. I appreciate you taking this time, and have a great day.